What's up, everyone? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it is time for my reaction and my thoughts to the College Football Playoff Top 25 rankings from November 22nd to 4th. College Football Playoff rankings. These rankings came out last night, so I'm now going to make a video about my reaction to it. And I do this every single week ever since the top 25 came out, so I give you my honest thoughts and also if I agree or disagree with it. Looking at last week's rankings, let's go over that first. It was pretty accurate. I mean, we had a controversial, sometime or another. Looking at this week's rankings, there was a lot of changes to the rankings, of course, from a chaotic, weekend last weekend. And overall, November has been a crazy month. I mean, there's been a lot of upsets, a lot of surprises, and also, some college football playoff teams ending their playoff race. So, yeah, looking at these rankings from this week, I mean, there's going to be some disagreements with maybe from 6 through 10. I think the top 5 is pretty accurate, but, we'll see what the other rankings look like as we head down this list. So we'll start from the bottom and work our way to the top. Let's start from 21 through 25. Louisville at number 25. This is a team that is new to the top 25 in the playoff rankings. This is a good Louisville team. I think they're probably the best 7-4 team in the ACC right now. I mean, Louisville's got wins over NC State this year, and also they got some wins over UCF. And yeah, Louisville has had a pretty good resume. Ever since losing that game to Syracuse early in the year, we thought Louisville would be a bad team this year, but this is a good, decent Louisville team. If you look at their, resume, they've, beaten some teams that were ranked in the top 25 as well. They do play Kentucky this weekend. That could be a really interesting game there for the Governor's Cup rivalry. Expect Louisville to really, play some solid football in that game. Cincinnati at number 24. And Cincinnati is obviously a big question to me. I really didn't see, this coming that Cincinnati would be at number 24. I mean, last week they were ranked, but, they got a tough competition this weekend. They got to play Tulane. That game is going to be on a Friday. And I think that game right there really decides who is the best team in the American Athletic Conference. Now, don't get me wrong, Cincinnati already lost to UCF, and I think that's why they got UCF ahead of Cincinnati. Yeah, that's kind of the reason why I think UCF is ahead of Cincinnati here on this top 25 list, because of the head-to-head matchup, and I think that's really reasonable. Texas at number 23, I really didn't see this coming, Texas being ranked at number 23. It seems like every week, that, when Texas loses, they get out of the top 25, and then when they win again, I just think the committee likes this Texas team, and they don't really have anybody else to put here in this top 25. Coastal Carolina, I think, was another option, but they didn't play this past weekend due to Virginia canceling their game. So, yeah, it's kind of a big surprise to me. I mean, I know Texas blew out Kansas, and, it was just pretty, surprising to me. But, I think it's pretty fair that they are ranked, but, I don't think they're going to be ranked that much longer. We'll have to see what it looks like coming into this weekend. UCF at number 22, the third best team as of right now in the American. Yes, they already beat Tulane, which doesn't make any sense to me that they are behind Tulane. They already beat them by 7 points. Now, I think UCF, if they lose that game, they're pretty much out of the American Championship. I mean, who knows who will win that conference? And, like I said, it could be Cincinnati, it could be UCF, or it could be Tulane. It's going to come down to Cincinnati versus UCF in that game this weekend. Oregon State, another team that could possibly ruin Oregon's chances, possibly making the Pac-12 championship. I think this is a good Oregon State team. I'm not saying they're a decent team. I'm saying they're a really good team. I think they're not a great team, but I think they are a really good underdog team in that Pac-12. And they play Oregon this weekend at home, so they get a really good, chance there to pull off a big upset. That's probably going to be my upset alert video probably tomorrow, so we'll see how Oregon State goes, but I think they should deserve to still be ranked. I mean, they've been pretty much rolling now ever since, losing to Washington, and that's how I think Oregon State could possibly ruin, Oregon's chances to make it the Pac-12. We've seen a lot of, upsets so far. All right, 16 through 20, Ole Miss at number 20. Boy, this Ole Miss team took a beating against Arkansas. I mean, who saw that coming? I mean, we heard rumors now that Lane Kiffin is probably going to be the next head coach. at Auburn. I mean, it's a lot of rumors. Maybe Ole Miss is not playing for him a lot anymore. Tulane at number 19, just like I talked about with UCF. Yeah, Cincinnati and Tulane both have identical records, but they haven't played each other yet. That is still to come this Friday. Now, Tulane has already played UCF. I mean, it's kind of just still surprising to me that UCF is down to or actually ahead of UCF. So I think they just care about the overall record. UCLA at number 18 didn't really take a big drop though. I mean, in that loss to USC, I thought UCLA would win that game, to be honest. Like, you know, I predicted that UCLA would pull off an upset, but I mean, USC though really played pretty well in that game. It was a shootout though. I mean, both teams pretty well were good on offense, but they only moved down 2 spots. They were ranked number 16 this past weekend, so it's not the end of the world for UCLA. I mean, they could potentially win this weekend against Cal. North Carolina at number 17. They lost to a Georgia Tech team that was not the worst in the Coastal Division, but an underdog team. You know, to lose that game to Georgia Tech, it is pretty embarrassing for North Carolina. I mean, they didn't really play their best game. I mean, it seems like when you have a good record and also when you play your best game, you're going to play good. But, you know, if you play your worst game, that was probably the worst game I've seen North Carolina play all year long. But, you know how November is. It's really chaotic in November. So, I mean, just overall chaotic. I mean, the 3 weeks that we've been in November already, I mean, North Carolina gets upset by Georgia Tech. That doesn't really, it really surprises me a lot. I mean, Georgia Tech is obviously not a great team, but, North Carolina probably should have won that game. They possibly could have made the playoff as well. Florida State, another team in the ACC that continues to improve. They'll play Florida this weekend. It is rival weekend, so that's why I keep mentioning, all these teams they're playing. Florida State, though, has really turned it around in Mike Norvell's 3rd year, I believe. I mean, he's really changed things here at Florida State. Now they're ranked number 16 ahead of North Carolina. I mean, that really doesn't surprise me whatsoever. They are a really good team. I think this Florida State team can finish out 9-3 perhaps, and maybe perhaps go to a good bowl game by the end of the year. So we'll see if they can keep that winning streak going. All right, 11 through 15 now. Notre Dame at number 15, Utah at number 14. Notre Dame took a big jump into the top 25 this weekend. They'll play USC on the road. That is going to be a big-time game there. I mean, it's, a game that Notre Dame can win. I mean, this is a team that keeps getting better and better, every single week. You look at the teams they have beaten this year, Syracuse, which they were ranked, but that doesn't really matter now. They beat North Carolina earlier in the year. So they have like 3 top 25 wins. I mean, they beat Clemson as well. So, I mean, this team keeps rolling. This team maybe finishes out 9-3. And I predicted Notre Dame to go at least 9-3 at the end of the year. So I think, Notre Dame will be able to, maybe pull off an upset, but I don't think it will happen. I think USC would come out on top with that win, but we'll just find out how it plays out. Utah at number 14 took a drop against Oregon. It wasn't a bad loss, though. Utah competed in that game, and I think they can probably get to a good bowl game at the end of the year. Not much to talk about Utah. They'll play an easy opponent this weekend. Washington at number 13. All right, this is really surprising to me. Kansas State is ahead of Washington. You look at who Washington has beaten this year. They already beat Oregon. I know Kansas State has a better resume than Washington a little bit, but I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. I mean, how is Washington not ahead of Kansas State? You look at Kansas State, they were just, I mean, you look at Washington, they couldn't really, get ahead of Kansas State in this one. I mean, at number 12 is Kansas State. I mean, they probably have a better resume, I guess, and they probably just care about the overall records and also, the wins they have in the Big 12 against ranked opponents. But some of those teams in the Big 12 are not even ranked anymore. So, I mean, it's just really surprised me that Washington is not ahead of Kansas State. I'm just really surprised that they are not ahead. Penn State at number 11. I keep saying this every week and after week. I mean, this team is going to go 10-2, and I think they will go into a New Year's Six bowl game. And the bowl I keep projecting they will go to is the Rose Bowl. So I think this Penn State team has a great path for them. I mean, they'll play Michigan State, not a bad Michigan State team, but they just haven't had a good season. But you never know. When it comes to rival week, I mean, there is a lot of, chaos as well in rival week compared to the first 3 weeks in November. All right, 6 through 10 now. This is where I'm going to disagree with, some of these teams. Tennessee is at number 10. I mean, I can understand why they're at number 10 is because of that big loss to South Carolina. Yeah, they got whooped in that game. Tennessee just really took a beating in that game. The defense was terrible. I mean, offensively, they were good, but, not explosive like they are early in the year. And if you look at, Tennessee, they're kind of in trouble now because Hendon Hooker is out for the rest of the year with a torn ACL. Now you got Joe Milton coming in, which I don't think Tennessee fans really like. I mean, because of how he overthrows his receivers. But I think Joe Milton is a great quarterback. I'm not saying he's bad. I think, Tennessee still has a chance to finish out 10-2 for the rest of the year. I don't think it's really a big problem if they finish out 9-3. They could still go to a big bowl game. Oregon at number 9. They're back in the top 10 after a win over Utah. So, I mean, I think I saw this coming that Oregon would pretty much beat Utah. And I don't think it was... I think it was pretty possible that, Oregon maybe could have slipped up in the top 10. But, also they could have, I think they could have beaten Utah much bigger, though. I think, I could have seen it, much bigger coming for them. But, no, I think Oregon, obviously deserved that win. They need that win, though, against Oregon State. They need that big win in order to get to the Pac-12 championship. If they don't win, Washington could get in. Some other team could get in. We just never know what can happen. Clemson at number 8. This is a team that, just keeps getting better and better as well. They're 10-1. Defeated Miami pretty good. And, that's pretty, I mean, it's pretty surprised me that they're behind Alabama a little bit. But I think Clemson is in a good position to make the playoff at the end of the year. I think they have to win out for the rest of the year. And they have to win that ACC championship as well against North Carolina. It will be a really good game. That game is coming up next weekend. So we're heading into the last game of the season. But Clemson, South Carolina's... The South Carolina game won't be easy. I mean, Spencer Rattler's performance last week, if he comes out to play like that, Clemson could be really in big trouble. But you never know. Clemson's got that game at home, though. And I don't really see them losing. But, I mean, I'm going to give you my thoughts on it in Upset Alert probably tomorrow. Alabama at number 7, which really is surprising that Alabama is ahead of Tennessee. Considering Tennessee won the early matchup, this is how I think the rankings should look like. USC should be where they are. Tennessee should be at number 7. Alabama at number 8. Clemson at number 9. And then Oregon at number 10. I just don't really agree with that at all by the committee. I mean, you look at the wins that Tennessee has had this year. 5 top 25 wins against 2 top 10 ranked opponents. I mean, what has Alabama done this year? I know I'm really kind of disrespecting Alabama a little bit, but, this is not where I think Tennessee should be. I know they lost badly, but I don't think it's really, I don't really think the score really matters when it comes to the playoff rankings either. USC at number 6, this is kind of like where I like USC here. I mean, I think they should be really behind LSU anyway because they don't have a better resume like LSU does. And, I know USC is 10-1, but the record really doesn't matter when it comes to the playoff rankings, and yet USC should be right where they are right now. So that's number 6. And they'll play Notre Dame this weekend. That is going to be a big-time game there. They're going to head to the Pac-12 championship regardless if they lose. All right, let's go to the top 5 now. We just had a change here. LSU is now the new number 5 team, and I like where this LSU team is. I think this is pretty, clear that LSU should be at number 5 because they have a better resume than USC. They beaten Alabama this year, and that's a better resume. They also beat Ole Miss, who are also ranked. So, yeah, LSU just has a better resume, and I think this is the most motivated team in the country. I think Brian Kelly has really turned this thing around for this LSU team. Look, they lost to Tennessee as well, and they have come a long way. And I think they just got to win, in the SEC championship. If they beat Texas A&M and beat Georgia in the SEC championship, I think they can get in. I mean, I think one of those teams just has to lose, though. It has to be Michigan or Ohio State in the, last game of the season, or it has to be TCU to get in there as a number 4 seed. But we'll just see how it goes down for LSU when they'll play Texas A&M on the road. It won't be an easy game, but I think LSU should win that game. But we just never know when it comes to rival week. TCU, Michigan, Ohio State, and Georgia, still the top 4 teams. TCU undefeated, Michigan undefeated, and Ohio State undefeated, which they play this weekend. That's the big game there. And then Georgia plays Georgia Tech. Not really seeing Georgia lose this weekend. Ohio State and Michigan, I'm going to make a prediction probably on that. But it's really hard. It's really hard between these two teams, and it's a tough game to call. For TCU, they'll play Iowa State. I think they win out and possibly lose the Big 12 championship. I'm going to make my predictions on the conference championships next week, throughout next week when the conference championships come out. That is my top 25 reaction to the college football playoff rankings, the 4th one from last night. Do I agree with these rankings? I do agree with a little bit of them, but not from 6 through 10. I don't really agree from those numbers. But that's my reaction to the college football playoff top 25 rankings. Let me guys know what you think about these rankings down in the comments below. And stay tuned here for more on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.